All right, so thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to the year-long journey on Cox Campus. And we are going to really explore the Foundations of Learning to Read course. Particularly, this course is designed for the age levels of preschool to pre-K. And the things that we're going to focus on specifically is phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, and concepts of print. So we are really going to dive into those things and look into the research. And we really want to welcome you to ask questions, give ideas. This should be definitely an interactive experience. So we're going to just pivot to the next slide. All right, all about me. My name is Shantae Lyons. I am a Birth to 5 and Cox Campus facilitator for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. I've been in education for going on 16 years, very passionate about our craft. I'm passionate about making sure that children get the skills that they need to just be empowered, and then also collaborating with educators so that they can have the tools that they need. I think it's all a great journey, and it's what it's all about. In my free time, I love a great movie and I love napping. Those are just some things about me, but I just am so excited to continue this conversation and get to know everyone else here too. So what about my friend Christina?
Hey, thanks, Shantae. I am Christina Mendonça. I am also a Birth to 5 facilitator at the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. I've been in education for a little over 6 years, and I am so passionate about inclusive and equitable learning environments. I really believe that it is crucial that all children are provided the opportunity of choice-filled lives. And I enjoy working with educators on reflecting on language and literacy practices because it's such a key component to self-expression. In my free time, I enjoy some yoga and hanging out with my pup, April.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. And so as we get to know you all, and in our little community of today, we wanted to introduce you or reintroduce you to the Cox Campus Way and what we value. These are our core values. We are rewarding in the sense that you are going to be able to become your best version of yourself within your own practice through our resources. We want to empower you with the skills and resources that make sense to what you do. We want to be connected, just like we are today, connecting with one another all across the country, all across the world to support children's language and literacy development. This is a safe space when you're with us, when you're active on Cox Campus. We want our community to be safe, open, and inclusive. And of course, our work is essential. The work towards language and literacy is crucial, and it must be available to all children so that they can become the skilled readers of the future. And if you haven't signed up yet, please go to coxcampus.org. This is where our community takes place. It is 100% free. It is for educators, family, and healthcare professionals. So definitely check out the chat. The link is there. And if you're not a member, it is super easy. It takes like a minute. Sign up. We will have all this access for you to our resources, our courses, and you'll also be emailed special events such as this one, so you can always be in the know about what's going on Cox Campus. We even have a mobile app for Android and iPhone users. So download that. It's a great way to have it on the go. Okay, what are our learning objectives for today? As Shantae mentioned, we're going to be talking about the foundations of learning to read, and these are our 3 objectives. To formulate a 3-part teaching strategy for teaching children specific skills, list the components of phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, and concept and print. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you. And learn how to modify teaching these concepts at different developmental stages.
All right. And so right now, what you're viewing is a great visual of the essential ecosystem elements. There are actually 9 of them. And we are going to really focus in on the emergent literacy, PAC, and emergent writing elements. Consistent routines and rituals, they kind of overlap, and just being very intentional with the supports for dual language learners. So these are all the essential elements that are really, really critical to make sure that children have a great learning experience when it comes to reading and developing language. And let's go to the next visual. And so right now you see the Scarboroughs Rope. And there are 2 main components. So you see language comprehension and you see word recognition. And so each of these components is comprised of several threads. So the threads that we're going to focus on today is language structures, which basically focus on syntax, the word order, and semantics, the meaning of words. And so another thing that we're going to focus on is literacy knowledge. And this is really for children, they gain this by being exposed to a variety of different genres of text, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and so forth. But the really thing that we're going to focus on for today, underneath that word recognition strand, is phonological awareness. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into phonological awareness, but I will say it is a key precursor to reading and writing. And so it develops during this age range from birth to 5. And it's really the ability to notice and work with sounds of spoken language. So we really are going to dive into that awareness. All these skills are really critical. So now we have a reflection question. This is an opportunity for you to really get interactive with us. You can raise your hand if you want to come off mute and have the mic, drop a comment. What do you remember about learning to read? And how do you think that influences your teaching? So take a moment to reflect and comment in the chat. I see Cheryl has her hand raised. Yes, please share out. I don't think I could hear Cheryl. Let me look and see. Can you see comments? I see the chat. Oh, I think someone's coming off.
Okay, I can share. My name is Katrina Kendrick. I just remember feeling really smart and accomplished because we used to have what we called a bookmobile. And my mother would send me to find Danielle's field novels. Even though I couldn't read, I could identify her name. And so once I learned to read and I could get books on my own that I really wanted to read for myself, with my sister and my mother, I just felt really accomplished and special. So I've loved to read since then. A library is like a weekly trip for us.
You know, that's really amazing because it really is empowering, and you are special once you learn to read. It's really like the key that unlocks so many doors. And so that's why this is critical, right? And this is why we are doing this work to make sure that everyone has the skills and tools that they need. I see comments are coming in. I remember the bookmobile. Okay, I read everything I saw out of the window of my car. That was exciting. I remember that transition as a child. When you notice everything, your eyes are really open and you can just engage with your world around you, right? Reading with babies, doing sound words. Yeah, playing with words. Oh my goodness. And it goes on and on and on. Thank you so much for sharing. We really, really appreciate. I'm so sorry, Cheryl, that your mic isn't working. Oh my goodness. Look, thank you for utilizing the chat. We really appreciate it. So let's now go ahead and pivot a little bit further to the next slide. And Christina's going to take it over.
All right. Thank you all again for sharing. And coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the three-part teaching strategy, which is the foundation of all the different activities we'll be talking around for pack time. And let's just talk a little bit about what this is. So the three-part teaching strategy is broken down into the show me, guide me, let me try. And what that means is the show me, as you're seeing in this image, the teacher is showing the child a new skill that they will be able to participate after the teacher models for them. And this can occur in large group or small group. And the reason we do this is to show the children the skill before they put it into action. So they really understand, like, for example, here, introducing paint colors, what do you do to make sure the paint work to transfer to the paper? You have to dip it in water before you can get the paint to work. Guide me. The second part, that the children get a chance to practice whatever skill that you are showing them, and they're able to do that with your support. And it gives them that safe space to try out the new skill, and it gives you a chance to assess whether or not you need to support them with a little bit more modeling. And then lastly, let me try. This often occurs in small group, but this is an opportunity for the children to go out on their own and give it a try. And this gives you a chance to see, do they really know how to do the skill, or can I still support them through some scaffolding? So on the next slide, we're going to show you a video of what this looks like with children. And while you're watching this video, take some time to think around, what did you notice about the show me, guide me, let me try, and drop it into the chat for us.
First, before I demonstrate the activity, I'm going to show you what secret objects I have. Do you want to see them?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you watching?
Yes.
I know, they're so cool. Are you ready? I'm going to demonstrate the activity. You can sit down. I promise I'll show you. So, I'm going to find two objects that rhyme. Okay, you ready? I'm going to pick one object that I'm going to find the other one that rhymes. Are you ready?
Key.
This is a key. So you know what? You're right, a key does open a door. Now I'm going to find the other object that rhymes with key, that sounds similar to key. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let me think. Key, hat.
No.
Key, hat.
Key.
No, you're right. Those don't rhyme. Key, rope.
No.
Key, rope. Nope.
No.
You're right. Those don't rhyme. Let me see. Key, shell.
Shell.
Key, shell. Nope, those don't rhyme. What about key, bee?
Yes.
Yes, they rhyme. Key and bee. They both have the E sound at the end.
Okay, everyone. So just take a minute. What did you notice in this particular video, the teacher modeling for the children? Oh, I see two people have raised their hands. Let's see. Go ahead. Let's see if I can see who it is.
Yes, I can't see either.
Let's see. All right, Pamela, I see your hand at the top of my list. I'm not sure if you're the first one to go up, but go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, good. I noticed the process of elimination
Yes, she was modeling
and
that.
modeling.
Mhm. Absolutely. She was showing which ones didn't work, and then ta-da! Look how excited they were, right? When that correct one popped up.
Right.
They're like, oh, totally, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Jenny, what did you notice?
That she went step by step in the process, and she made it very, the kids were excited about it by first showing the objects and talking like, can you guess what's here? So the kids were wanting to know what's here and what's coming next.
Absolutely, that's suspense. It works every time. Add a little suspense and the kids are totally bought into it. And then also, like you said, that she was able to kind of get their attention so that she could then show them what they were going to do. And then, so thank you so much for listing that, Jenny. And then Leslie, I think you're the last person with your hand up, and then I'll move on to the chat.
I also noticed those things. That's the same thing that the ladies. I liked how she did the process of elimination. She tried those things and she let them answer. She didn't answer for them.
Yes, absolutely. She was really giving them opportunity to use their voices and be a part of a thought process. So that show me process doesn't necessarily just need to be about you delivering instructions. Let it be interactive with the children. Let them explore how you're showing them how this activity is going to go. And what we didn't model in the rest, there's a longer video that you can check out on Cox Campus. But then the children get an opportunity to have a tray for themselves, and they get to do that independent practice on their own. So it all evolves from the show me, guide me, then the let me try portion. Great observations, everybody. Exactly. I see a lot of people lifting up similar things in the chat, and the enthusiasm. Yep. You got to have the enthusiasm. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to another enthusiastic teacher. This teacher in this video is going to model for you what pack time looks like when it's everything brought together. We do suggest primarily that you try to separate the different practices into small groups, because we do know that children tend to be more successful in smaller groups because they get more of that one-on-one experience. But this will at least give you a good idea about the different components of pack and what it looks like. So she'll start off, and then we'll kind of circle back and I'll explain what she did for each practice. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and watch this video.
I want you to look at all these words in this poem. Can you see all these words? Look at these words. I want you to notice that in between these words, I have spaces. Look, there's a space between each of the words here. And you know what? I have to remember when I read, there are certain details that I must do. I must start reading from left to right. And also I have to remember to read from top to bottom. Because then if I'm doing those things, I know that I'm reading it correctly. Okay, so let me start with the title of this poem. It's Raindrops. You know what? I think I want to use my pointer. The title is Raindrops. Raindrops, raindrops, falling all around. In this poem here, there is a word that is made of two words. And that word is raindrops. Rain, drops. Okay, so when we have rain and drops and blend those two words together, we have the word raindrops. You know what?
Compound word.
It's a compound word, you're right. We have learned how to blend and take apart words that are made of two words. And you know what? You guys are such experts at this. I bet you can do some compound words. You want to try it? Yeah. Cool. Okay. Oh, I have it right here. Can you see it from there? Look at those pictures there. Look at this picture. So what I want you to do is hear the two words that I'm going to say, and we're going to blend those words to make compound words, okay? Are you ready? And you can look at the pictures as I do it, but I want you to listen as well, okay? Here we go. I have cup and cake. When I blend those two words, I have what?
Cupcake.
Wow. Let me try another one. I have ear and ring. When I blend those two words together. Earrings. Good. Okay. Now, I see this picture here, and there's a pencil pointing at that balloon, and I bet that balloon will pop. And then I have a picture of corn. We have what? Popcorn. You guys are good at this. So what I'm going to do, I am going to describe these letters. And you have to figure out what letter I am trying to get you to spy, okay? I spy a letter that is a curve.
C.
You're absolutely right. The letter C. It is a curve. Awesome. Okay. Let me see if you can get this one. I spy a letter that is made of a line and a curve.
A D.
Wow, you guys, you're
All
right.
Thank you so
A
much, Pam.
line
Can you pause
and a
it there?
curve. That's the.
Thank you. Okay, so just to break it down, she started off this particular large group with concept of print. So she was talking around the poem and the different words in the poem and how she was reading the print on it. So modeling for the children how the process of reading works. And then she shifted using the word raindrops into phonological awareness. So thinking about the two different words that come together, those compound words, and helping the children identify that. And then last but not least, she branched over to alphabet knowledge by playing a little I Spy game and the children having to guess based off of the description she was providing. So this just kind of gives you a quick overview of the different segments of PAC we're going to talk about, as well as the next document that we will share, not only in the chat, but then also on the screen. It is a handy teacher's aid on what is PAC time, the different letters that are represented and what they mean. So P for phonological awareness, A for alphabet knowledge, and C for concept of print. And then it even gives you some tips about how to tune in for PAC time as well as be responsive. But we're going to talk about that in our following slides. And next, we are going to share another resource with all of you. It's helpful tips for teaching PAC. And sometimes the way we learn language and literacy skills growing up is a little different than how science has shown to be most effective now. So we're going to break it down a little bit together on what's in this document. So activities that are helpful and then ones that are probably not the greatest examples of the different skills. So let's start with the first image. Let's pop up awesome sight words. I'm sure many of you remember these. Now, when we're thinking about phonological awareness, we're not thinking around the sight words. We're thinking a little bit more about what we saw Kate do in that video with the rhyming activity. So if you click on the next image, having a basket filled with different items of things that kids can match, because phonological awareness, that really should be able to be done in the dark because you only need your ears and your voices. All right, the next one, letter of the week. Some of you may have learned this in other Cox Campus presentations, but this is really not an effective way to learn the alphabet. We want to make sure that they're exposed to different letters throughout the week. So another example that we have that instead of doing letter of the week, have some engaging experience like jumping to different letters and being able to visualize how the letter looks and really separating the letter itself from the sound it makes, because that's a skill that happens later on. So just really being able to notice what a letter looks like. So for example, in the video previously, the kids knew when she said a curve that she was talking about the letter C. That's the only hint she had to give. And then of course, last but not least, concept of print. This is an example of matching a word to an image. This is not developmentally appropriate. Instead, you can take a peek at the morning message and identify where you start reading during the morning message, really that you're reading from top to bottom. Those are things that we don't initially know. We need to be explicitly taught. And all these ideas are on this resource. So if you don't have a pen writing this stuff down, don't worry about it. Just click on the link in the chat and it'll take you right to the resource with a lot of this information.
All right. So before we actually begin diving into this question, I just want to make sure that I reiterate what phonological awareness is. And it is the ability to work with sounds of spoken language without letters or words, okay? And so just keeping that in mind, we are going to go ahead and offer up this question, which is not phonological awareness, okay? And so basically what we want you to do is to listen to each one, and then afterwards you can offer up a comment by putting the letter in the comments below. So put a letter in the comments after we listen to all three. Which one is not phonological awareness?
Higgledy-biggledy bumblebee, will you say your name for me? Jonathan. Clap it out. Jonathan. Stomp it out. Jonathan.
All right, the second one.
Listen, listen, have you heard? We know how to stomp out words. Cat. At. A. Apple. A.
All right, so you've heard all three sound bites. So now please drop in the comments the letter that is not phonological awareness. Okay, I see one friend, two friends, and more. I see everyone putting in C. Absolutely, absolutely. Remember, phonological awareness is a child's ability to play with spoken words in the absence without letters, without words. It's all about the ears. It's all about the ears. And so we really appreciate you all just dropping in your comments so quickly. But yes, that was just something just to keep us, warmed up throughout. So let's go ahead and pivot to the next slide. Thank you for sharing. So thinking about phonological awareness, it's really, like we said before, a key precursor for reading and writing. And, it is comprised of so many skills. And so you see, when you are incorporating phonological awareness, you're increasing the awareness of words in your classroom, syllables, onsets, and rhyming, and individual phonemes. So when you think about phonological awareness, you have to think about 4 different levels, right? And so the different levels are, the first one, when you think about words, is awareness of speech flow. So that's just an understanding when we speak in sentences, and those sentences are made of words. And so just developing that understanding, it's really an abstract concept, but with a lot of love and intentionality and using manipulatives, you can really make this abstract concept very concrete. And so we can go on to the next slide. And so also, when we think about phonological awareness, and there's 4 different levels. So the 4 different levels we spoke about, like the sentence level, the syllable level, and then there's also a level onset and rhyme. And at the end, that 4th level is phonemic awareness. So think about phonological awareness as a continuum of skills. And the phonemic awareness is the most complex skill on that continuum. And so when looking at phonemic awareness, we really have to be specific about detecting and manipulating those individual sounds of spoken words. So if I were to give you an example, it would be top. I put an emphasis on the in top, right? And so that's the individual phoneme. And phonemic awareness is so critical. It's actually considered one of the strongest predictors for future reading success. And it's so critical for children to have a foundation in phonemic awareness, because it just impacts their later skills. And also, research have shown us, and we've seen that now it suggests that pre-K children should spend most of their literacy instruction on the phoneme level. So think about that. And even if you were to work with children that are in that 3-year-old range, it's okay for them to do phonemic awareness activities. But the key here is for them to respond from a receptive standpoint, as opposed to expressively sharing what they are, incorporating. So asking them to point to things would be a way to receive their input. So let's go ahead and pivot a little bit more. All right, now it's resource time. So we're going to look at this resource. This is something to help you. It's an implementation chart for phonological awareness. And if you're thinking, where can I get started? You can utilize this resource. And again, just to point out some key things, Starting from the left, you see word awareness. Word awareness really focuses on the larger chunks of we speak in sentences, that awareness and the words are comprised within those sentences. That's the least complex skill. So you're going to start there, and you're going to transition to the more complex skills, and you can see phonemic awareness. On this particular resource, you see towards the bottom that there's a pre-assessment. So before you even begin to introduce concepts and skills, you really want to get to know the skills that your children already have to offer and what they come to school with. So you will assess all these skills, and we have various assessments, and I'll share an example with you in a moment. So that's really good to help you kind of set the tone for the year, create your groups, know how to differentiate, meet all the children, every child where they are. So it's a great way to start off the year. And then throughout the months, you're going to continuously monitor those skills, right? Because you never know when you're going to have to change certain components, or if a child is lacking in clarity in certain areas. And then towards the end of the year, you will do a post-assessment just to see where the gains are and be able to celebrate those successes. So we can actually pivot to the next slide, because this resource is a back and front. And so you're thinking, okay, great. You shared all of these different concepts and these terms. However, I want to know specifically about those goals. So in the back of this document, you'll see again those 4 levels: word awareness all the way to phonemic awareness. But if you look from top to bottom, if we look underneath word awareness, you can see those different subtitles for word awareness. You see sentence comprehension, and then it pivots to sentence segmentation. So you see the goals for each one underneath each category. And also you would see, before you start particular categories, the prerequisite skills. So it's really a clear picture of what is needed before you start, so that children can be successful, and you can scaffold those experiences as you're introducing them into your classroom. And then it goes all the way to phonemic awareness. You will notice that they're aligned with GELs. And so you can see just the alignment there. And there are also different stopping points for different age levels. So at the end, for onset and rhyme for preschool, you'll see that that would be the goal for the year. As opposed to pre-K, you can go a little bit further, and you will see phoneme segmenting is the last goal that you would target for the year for pre-K. And then lastly, but not least, you can see, what if you have a child that exceeds expectations? Well, there's a little blurb there that can give you some ideas on how you can target those skills, as well as a resource with the QR code. If you scan that, that will connect you to a resource that will tell you how to approach dual language learners and incorporate these skills and help them with these concepts. All right, so that was a lot. I feel like I just bombarded you all with so much. However, again, I know Christina may have mentioned, or if I've mentioned it before, we have terms and different resources for you to access. And here's a glossary specifically for PAC, which stands for the Phonological Awareness Alphabet Knowledge. And yeah, I see there someone likes the alignment to the GELs, but you can utilize this glossary terms if you wanted to go back to refer to any of these concepts. We can go to the next slide. Another resource for phonological awareness, you can access the Tried and True Recipes resource, which is really great to refer to when you're trying to think about those skills for your small groups. Yes, some things will be introduced in large group, but we really, again, as Christina has said before, recommend that you target the small group, because it's really critical. It helps you be able to differentiate skills. You're able to progress monitor. You're able to make more of a meaningful impact with your children. So utilize this resource. There's tons of things in there, and it's very broken down between the levels for phonological awareness. We can go to the next one. And we want to share with you some of the assessments that are on our platform. And so there are assessments for the fall, there's assessment for the mid-year, and even for the end of the year. And there's this document that we see right here to the left that shows you, all the summary of the skills that a child may have. So it's a great at a glance where each of your children, are. You can, look at that, upload your information to TSG, WSO, whatever platform that you're using. So yeah, we're dropping links in the comments so that you can get access to those things. So now I'm going to read, but we're going to look at a video of Mary being responsive. So let's look at Mary as she's sharing or incorporating these skills in her class.
What words do you get when you blend these two syllables together? So, now, look at this. We have door and bell. We have the word door and we have the word bell. What word do I get when I blend door and bell?
Doorbell.
Yes, doorbell. Now let's try it again. But this time we're going to do syllables. You just did it with two words. Door and bell made doorbell.
Let's put our shoes together.
Door, bell. Put them together. What do you have?
Together. Doorbell.
Yes. Now let's go back to sofa.
Together. Squeeze.
Okay. What word do you get when you blend sofa?
I have to put my frog in there first. Sofa.
Yes, you did it. You did it. Okay, let's try this one. Let's try monkey. What word do you get when you blend monkey together?
Monkey.
Yes, you did. You blended two syllables to make a word.
Fantastic. That was really a great video to watch. Oh my goodness. And if you want to share out what you saw and how she was being responsive, feel free to go ahead and raise your hand and share out at this moment, or even in the chat. We welcome just your thoughts and your ideas. And I see Barbara says, I love using manipulative to blend. Absolutely. Again, utilizing small little tangibles to make these abstract concepts more concrete is really, really great. So thank you for sharing that comment. And yeah, she was very intentional. She was tuned in. What a great way to, just scaffold that the little girl's experience. Great interaction. Yes, it was so great. She had a breakthrough moment. She really did. And you can celebrate their accomplishments when you give yourself the ability to have that one-on-one time or in a smaller group. And so that's really a great thing to highlight. And she was using terminology such as syllables, right? So we can teach them the meaning of these things and we can understand these concepts. So thank you so much for sharing. We can go to the next slide. So we also want to make sure we shared a resource for those of you that may have dual language learners in your classroom. So this is a resource that you can find on Cox Campus, and it's titled Development of Phonological Awareness in Dual Language Learners. So it's really important, as you analyze different skills, how to approach and differentiate for your children that are dual language learners. I see in the comments that you notice there was no written word, only the spoken word. That's right, because phonological awareness is think about your ear. It's about a child's ability to manipulate spoken words without written words and letters. So absolutely no need for letters, no need for words. Objects, yes, sometimes you might incorporate a picture, but you don't want to confuse the little ones with those things. So thank you for putting that in the comments. We really appreciate that. But yes, make sure you utilize this resource if you have dual language learners in your classroom. further, their experiences and guide you. And so that's something that we would definitely want you to look into. We're going to pivot to the next slide. And so, time to reflect. What type of phonological awareness activities are you currently implementing? So think about that. And so also think about, when you're implementing these phonological awareness activities, there's always going to be a constant cycle of review, right? Before you introduce one concept, you're going to kind of review and then introduce to another. So it's going to be an ongoing thing at some point. But in the comments, please feel free to share the types of phonological awareness activities that you are doing in your class at the moment. You're welcome for the resources. We really appreciate you, Nicole. And not to, share, but I'm reflecting myself. I see someone say word boxes. Yeah, you have those little boxes that you can kind of use, and sometimes you put little chips in them and push them up. Phonological awareness, yep, you're doing nursery rhymes during your transition. You can work on alliteration that way, doing compound words. All right. You say you have a few moments in between, segmenting during transitions, making connections with cubes and building words. So I'm thinking you're thinking about the onset and rhyme, right? The consonant that precedes that vowel. Yes, I'm right there with you. Absolutely. Songs, all the things, rhyming names. Yeah, I am just, we're all on the same page. It's so important to really capture and carry over those skills in the transitions, because children need practice these skills, right? And they need practice through play, they need practice through song, and it's a great way to collect information from them. So yes, all these things are wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And we can go to the next slide.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Shante. We have another game for you all to play with us. And the question we have for you that is, which activities below best practice or represent best practice to introduce alphabet knowledge skills? And just drop which letter you think it is in the chat. I'll give you a little hint. There's 2 right answers for this one. So again, which of these images represents the best practices for introducing alphabet knowledge? Seeing some A and B's. You guys are spot on. Absolutely. A and B. You are correct. So if you said A or B or both, and in C, what you're seeing more is this kind of ditto sheet, if you will. It's really not an experience for the child. It's just maybe tracing the letter. And we know that children don't really gain that alphabet knowledge by doing that, by exploring letters in a sensory table and maybe finding the hidden letter. And in this particular activity, they're actually able to match it to the trays above because they're magnetic, or playing I Spy. Alexander, I just saw what you wrote. Yes, it's all your blow type. So thank you guys all for participating in that. We're going to move on to our next slide. And then for the sake of time, I may move quickly through this, but so please forgive me, but I just want to make sure we get you guys as much information as we can with the time we have left. So alphabet knowledge, as we mentioned earlier, is about recognizing the letter names, naming the letters, distinguishing between letters, and matching uppercase and lowercase letters. So as you can see, it has nothing to do with what the sounds the letters make, because we do know they make many, many sounds, especially when they're put together. We're just focusing on the actual letters themselves. And this is why. So on our next slide, this is what we know about alphabet knowledge, that The confusable letters, the ones that look similar, you want to introduce those later because it's easier to tell apart the ones that look really different from one another. Children learn best when the exposure is frequent, the instruction is intentional and explicit and meaningful. So being really intentional about how you introduce the different letters at different points. And if you're curious about, okay, which letter do I introduce when? We've got a resource for you, so hang on. And then learning about the orientation of letters is helpful. So that's why air drawing it out for children or with the children is helpful. That helps them understand how the letters are formed and which way they are oriented. The order of teaching the letter names has not been confirmed, but we do know that it's not random. So you do want to be intentional about how you're doing it. And then there's also strong evidence that children learn first letters in their names and names of families, because we love our names. Let's be real. Usually the names is the go-to one to teach children the first foundations of alphabet knowledge. And then most literacy experts agree that uppercase are easier to learn than lowercase. So that's what we know about the science behind alphabet knowledge. Let's hop on over to our next slide. And this is the implementation plan that is available on Cox Campus. So if you were wondering, well, okay, Christina, how do I know what order? We have a plan for you. So definitely download this resource. It will give you an idea about the suggestions we have of what order to introduce the letters. And you will notice that the letters in the children's names come first, and then recognize uppercase letters that have maximum contrast, then working your way all the way up to uppercase letters that have minimal contrast. So thinking about letter O versus letter Q, not a big difference there, right? All right, so that's the implementation plan. Definitely check that out. And alongside that, we also have some alphabet knowledge activities. We recognize teachers and educators have really busy days. So sometimes you need a little inspiration. So check out our alphabet knowledge activities for some ideas of what you can do in your classroom that are fun and engaging and developmentally appropriate. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about our alphabet knowledge assessment. This is also available on Cox Campus. We know how important it is to progress monitor where your children are at so you can be responsive. If they know the letter, you want to move on to the next letter, or maybe if they need more support on a different letter, you want to bring it back into your weekly plan so they get more exposure to it. This assessment is great to do at least 3 times a year to pulse check on where your children are at. In our next slide, we have a video of Mary doing a model of this activity. So we're just going to watch a little bit of it for the sake of time. So go ahead, Sam.
So I need to find a lowercase v for this uppercase V. So this one is easy. Why is it so easy?
Because they're the same.
They're very similar. The only thing, one is big and one is smaller, right? So I would go just like this and put it under. That way it helps me learn so that I could see them both together. So let's try the next one together. T, let's do T. That is next in line. All right, here is, I'm going to look across and find the one that that is not similar to me. That is not really similar because that top is curved and this one is straight. This is not similar. This is a circle and this letter is made with straight lines. Ha! I found one that is made with straight lines. So I will put, where do you think I should put this?
Under the T.
Under the T, that's right.
All right, Sam, go ahead and pause that there.
The next one.
Thank you so much. So you can see in this activity, she picked out letters that have high contrast from one another, but then they're also easy to match from their lowercase counterparts. And she's even doing that show me method that we talked around earlier in the presentation. So the children know that when they get their own tray, they can get an opportunity to try it themselves and do this little matching game. Now we're going to shift to another video because I feel like this one's super important. What happens when a child is able to express what a letter, or be able to show you one way how to identify a letter versus another way. So it looks like Sam's working to get that video slide up. And just thinking about, like, sometimes when you ask a child to tell you a letter, they can't, but then you ask them to show you, they can.
FZHUWM.
Carly, can you point to the letter M? Great, you were able to pick the M. Can you point to the letter W? Great, you were able to pick out the W.
So definitely feel free to adapt what you're working on with the children to meet the child where they're at and give them another opportunity to share their knowledge with you in a different way. So moving on, Shante, I'm thinking for the sake of time, I'm going to send it over to you to just talk over concept of print really quickly.
All right, absolutely. And so instead of doing this reflective activity, which would have been fun, we're going to go ahead and pivot to what is concepts of print. So this is really just the awareness of rules of written language. So thinking about reading and writing, think about directionality from left to right, how we read, left to right, top to bottom, and even incorporating that return sweep. But just also just making sure you incorporate the awareness that print carries a message and pointing out functional print. So let's go to the next one. What we know about concepts of print. So what we know is that we can recognize print, and it's a foundational skill for reading and writing, but it's important to understand the function of print and how it's organized for this age level. Also, the relationship between speech and print. So it's really important that we share these skills with the children so they can develop this understanding. We can go to the next slide. And so, of course, we have an implementation chart that can guide you along your way. So it tells you first, if you start from the left, you can start with print meetings, then you transition to the organization of reading material, pretend to read a book from front to back, and, identifying front, back, top, bottom, just, making sure you pour in those concepts. Again, you can do this during small group time or informally as you're reading a large group message. And so this is there for you. You can see the jails are aligned, TSG, WSO. Let's go on to the next one, checking the time. So, hey, let's look at this teacher and as he's incorporating concepts of print with this little girl in his class.
Can you tell me about your picture? What did you draw?
This is the princess.
This is a princess? All right, I'm gonna write that, okay? So I'm gonna start up here at the top of the page. First word is this. And I'm gonna put my finger so I have the right spacing. Is space, space, princess. And I'm gonna put a period because it's the end of the sentence. So let's read it back because this is what you told me, okay? It says, this is a princess. Is that what you said?
All right. And so you saw he modeled a lot of different things. He took what she said and he wrote it down. He was talking out loud of what he was actually doing and pointing out that one-on-one correspondence as he was reading. So all these things are concepts of print. But there's also ways to progress monitor print awareness by asking questions, and here are some prompts. This is not necessarily something that we can pass on as a resource, but we want to share with you that there's different ways that you can assess these skills for this age level. And going on to the next slide. So sorry to be so quick. We're going to skip this video for the sake of time and ask you this reflective question. So again, this is a time where you can drop your thoughts in a chat, raise your hand if you want to get the mic. But what do you find the easiest or the most difficult about teaching concepts of print throughout the day? And feel free to, share that with us today if you have any offerings. All right, so I'm just checking the chat. And if not, you can just ponder on that a little bit. Sometimes it takes a while for me to process. Remember to get it all in. You have to get it, and that's why it's important to be intentional, right? And I remember once I had it on my lesson plans, then it was that reminder, right, that I need to do that. And sometimes you have to set yourself up for success. Put little, reminders, write something on your whiteboard just to cue you, but whatever you need to do, but give yourself some grace and practice makes perfect. Small groups are sometimes difficult to range from distractions. Yeah. And then also thinking about small groups is really, if you can, depending on your group size, if it's, 4-year-olds, try to have a group of 4. That would be amazing if you can, no more than 5. If you have 3-year-olds, try to have a group of 3, but no more than 4 if possible. But it's really a fine balance for sure, depending on what you're working on. So thank you so much. We're going to go to the next slide. And
yeah, I think we're going to skip this slide too, again, because I recognize it is 5 o'clock and we appreciate that you guys are here with us. We're definitely never short of content. So I'm going to speed through this. All these videos can be found on Cox Campus. Really quick, there are amazing transitional activity cards. I heard most of you mentioning, or a few of you mentioning how you use different phonological awareness activities in your transitions. Well, guess what? You can continue to do that, maybe get a few new activities from these activity cards, or you can try out some concepts of print transition activities, some alphabet knowledge transition activities. They're super handy. You can cut them out. And yeah, remembering to get them in throughout the day is tricky. So this you can kind of keep in your back pocket so that you can pull out at any time. And then the next slide, we talked around some progress monitoring tools on Cox Campus. You will also have a resource there because there is quite a few different options that will map it out for you. So we try to do all the legwork for you guys in advance so that you have a tool there that you can just look up real quick. That's the progress monitoring tool I need to support this particular skill. Okay, sorry for a little bit of a speed round, but the last thing, as we're wrapping up these last slides, please drop into the chat one thing that you learned from this presentation that you would like to try out in your classroom, and then I am going to pass it back over to Shantae to close us out.
All right, and as you are dropping those comments in the comment area, thank you. So, more self-aware, explicitly teaching, print awareness, yes. More individual assessments. Well, now we're on the slide as you're sharing. I'm trying not to be too distracted, but it's great. We really appreciate you all. We wanted to introduce you to just one of our initiatives, which is to bring science of breathing to children within a community by sharing information with adults to reach children. And so, this is from birth to from 3rd grade, but anyone can implement these practices, and we want to make sure that you knew about this. Also, feel free to watch the educators in Georgia and the city of Marietta as they share their stories, and you can follow them. There's a YouTube page as well too, or even on Cox Campus. Thank you so much. And going to the next one. So don't miss our upcoming sessions, March 30th. So we have 3 o'clock, Infant Toddler Talk with Me Baby. And then also for preschool pre-K, we have emerging writing. That will be the next session. Mark your calendars.